Hey everyone, so I'm out here today making my end of summer notes for myself so I remember which varieties I liked, what things I didn't like, just taking all kinds of notes for next year. And I thought before everything disappears, I wanted to share with you my top 10 favorite things that I grew this year. I feel like this year has been a great gardening year for me, and I feel like over the past couple years of just failures and learning, it's finally all coming together. And so my advice to you, if you are just starting out, just keep going, because you're going to learn so much each year and you'll be able to put that into place, and you'll finally have a garden that you feel like is successful and worth doing. So all of these things, they're either vegetables or they are plants. And so I've picked out my top 10 favorites. I'm going to work backwards to my most favorite thing that I've planted. And so all 10 of these things will show up again on my farm at least next year, because I've just loved them so much. Okay, it is mid-October, so some of this stuff is starting to fade out, so it doesn't look like it's at its best. Number 10 on my list is the medium rare tomato. These are from Burpee, and they are huge. You can't see how big they are right now, but they were really prolific. They were these big, like beefsteak tomatoes. I mean, they were huge, and they were so good. So good. A great slicing tomato. I've got tons of recipes that I can share with you if you're interested for what I use these tomatoes for, but they were just so good, and they will be coming back to my garden next year. Number 9 on my list is also a tomato. This is the 4th of July tomato, also from Burpee, and both of these tomatoes that I've shared with you are indeterminate tomatoes, which means they are vining tomatoes, which means they can grow really tall. So they need some type of trellis or some type of support system for them to grow up. The 4th of July tomato produces tomatoes about this size, and they were also so delicious. They were very easy to care for, and these plants, I planted four of these plants, and they produced so many tomatoes. It's one of the first tomatoes that's going to show up in your garden, usually by the 4th of July. These I've used a lot. I've hollowed out the center. You see they're a little bit bigger than a cherry tomato. They're great on salads, fresh. They're great for snacking. I've hollowed out the center and put like this BLT mixture in it, and those are so delicious. They are great for, I've turned them into salsas, I've turned them into bruschetta, I've even put them in as some of my spaghetti sauces. Okay, I'm here at my corn. You've seen me plant this in another one of my videos, and it has been an absolute favorite. I will grow this variety again. I will probably also next year grow a taller variety, mainly because I want the stems for decorating for fall. But this has been a great corn. It is called ambrosia corn, and it is really good. Very sweet, very good. This is my second planting. So like I said, we're here mid-October. I'm hoping this pulls through before we get a frost. It's kind of tasseled out a little smaller here, probably because of the weather just being a little bit colder. So it is a definite favorite of mine, and I will plant it again. Anybody who is looking for, you know, trying their hand at some corn and, you know, doesn't really know like which variety to do, this stays smaller. I've done this in raised beds. So if you want to put together a 4 by 12 foot raised bed like I did, it's better to plant in blocks like this rather than in straight rows because of pollination. So it's really great to do corn like this in raised beds, because you're already getting that 4-foot block and 12-foot wide. I put 2 seeds per square foot and spread them out within that square foot range. But this has been a really great corn, and it's been a really great corn for raised bed gardening. Okay, do you like strawberries? Because that is next on my list, and I've planted 2 varieties this year. One I actually planted 3 years ago. Never got a single fruit on it, and I ended up tearing those out after I got this next variety. These things are amazing. They are on their first year. I purchased, I think 7 plants. I just split 1 plant so far. I'm getting ready to, you know, get my fall garden set up for next year, and so I took one of those plants and it turned into 9 different plants. So strawberries will either produce a big batch in like June, I think, or May, June. I can't remember because I did not get any for the past 3 years from that one batch. That's the first type that I had. There's also another batch called, I believe it's Day Neutral is what it's called. It produces a bigger batch in that springtime at the same time as those others, but then it produces all summer long, and then these have produced now, they've picked up again now that the weather has gotten a little bit cooler also. Let me show you what these are. So these are the Foodie Fresh strawberries from Burpee, and they're amazing. They're so amazing. These are first year, and look at the size strawberries that I am getting on here. They were a little bit smaller this earlier spring because we had just put them in this year, but now that fall is rolling around here and it's getting a little bit cooler, they're starting to pick up again, and the berries are much bigger. So I'm gonna give this a good dose of fertilizer to put it to bed for the fall, and hopefully next year we'll have even bigger, juicier strawberries. So the thing about this variety, the other variety that I planted just sent off runners. It put all of its energy into sending off runners, and it quickly covered this entire bed. I had it planted on the outside just like I have these down this row, and I mean, you know, within a couple weeks, I mean, they are just sending off so many runners. It's terrible. So we got no strawberries from those. I put these in here. These, I believe, spread more by like a rhizome, I think. And so they're not sending off these huge runners that just like take over, but they do start to build, and we'll send off some runners. You can take those runners, split them apart, and plant those and increase your strawberries. So like I mentioned, I bought 7 or 9 strawberry plants earlier this spring, and each one of those, I think it was 7, and each one of those is going to turn into 9 plants for me roughly this fall going into next year. And they don't send out those runners so vigorously, and it kind of gives you some strawberries throughout the summer as well as those bigger batches in the spring and then now in the fall. Number 6 on my list is a Mexican sour gherkin, or a cucamelon. This is the first time that I've grown these, and these will be a repeat in my garden every year. They're really different and they're really cool. They are a little cucumber. They get about an inch long, so they stay pretty tiny, and they kind of have a citrusy cucumber taste. They're really good. My oldest daughter loves to run out here to the garden. They pick their strawberries and they pick their cucamelons right off the vine and eat them. They have a more citrusy cucumber taste, but their shell is a little tougher than a regular cucumber. So when you first put it in your mouth, you're gonna get this huge crunch from it, but then you get to the inside, you're like, huh, that's really good. And they're kind of addicting, just being out here in the garden and just popping them in your mouth as you're working. They grow on these long rambling vines, so be sure to give them enough room. I planted them here in front of some flowers, and so they're kind of crawling up into the flowers. So I've only planted 4 of these this year because I didn't know if they would turn out or what they would do, so I didn't want to take up a lot of space in my garden, but definitely next year I will be planting a ton more of these. And while we're here, let me tell you about these lemonade cosmos, because they are number 5 on my list. They're awesome. This is the first year I've grown several of these flowers as like cut flowers, and I'm obsessed with them. They will definitely be returning to my garden next year. I'm actually getting ready to come out here and save some of the seeds, and I will show you how I do that. But they get these like great little yellow centers here. I mean, they are beautiful. I just love seeing them out here. This is, I think, four plants. 4 plants in this batch right here, and so they just like branch out, and it seems like the more you cut them, the more flowers they produce, and they have just gone all summer long, and it's just like this nice little bright pop of color here on the end of one of these beds. So, okay, there are 2 flowers here in this patch that I want to share with you because they are favorites of mine. The first one is an Italian sunflower. So this comes at number 4 on my list. Instead of having just your single stem sunflowers that end up getting this one flower head on these branches, which are super cool, but this one is a branching sunflower. So it has all of these multiple branches per one stem. I just think they are so beautiful because of the number of flowers that they produce. The colors, they have these lighter edges of these petals, and then towards the center it gets this deep yellow, and then of course that eye in the center, which is like a deep dark brown. It is just super, super pretty, and it's like this vibrant backdrop that I'm always seeing when I look out the window. Number 3 on my list is also here in this bunch, and this is an Envy Zinnia. So I'm going to pick this and show this one to you. This one is really pretty. It's a smaller type zinnia. They are these like chartreuse green, and they branch out really well, so the more you cut them, the more they come back. And so I think it's just super fun to have all these really good, easy blooming varieties that you can pop in around the yard that are easy to start from seed. You know that sunflowers are really easy to start from seed, and so are zinnias. When you go to cut them, it will branch off and give you even more blooms all through the summertime. It's one of those things that you could just plant one time and it'll give you blooms all summer long, and they don't take a lot of care, a lot of water, or anything like that. So definitely going to be a repeat for these, along with some other zinnias for me next year. Okay, this is number 2 on my list because it is one of the coolest plants, and it is so easy to grow. It is drought tolerant. I literally haven't done anything to this patch, and it is 3 plants right here. These are annuals, and which means you have to plant them every single year. However, you can get them at your garden center, and they're like $3 or $4 a piece, and so they give such big bang for your buck. Are a great cut flower. The more you cut them, cut off the blooms during the year, the more they bloom. So they just like fill a space for such little money, and that's why I love annuals, especially when you're building up your landscape, because you know your perennials and your shrubs, those take several years to really get to their full potential and growth, and so annuals can come and fill in those spots and just give you that nice pop of color that you're looking for, and not to mention give it to you all summer long with no work. These are an absolute favorite of mine. But number 1 on my list, we're gonna have to go up to the road because they're up there and they're awesome. All petunias are not created equal, so get your pen and paper out. This one is called a Supertunia Vista. Do not think that you're gonna put any petunia in the ground and it is going to do this, because that does not happen. These are self-cleaning, self-deadheading. You don't have to touch them, and this is 2 plants right here. These things are amazing, and they are at the top of my list for a reason. These are up here at the road, so they have no water, they get no fertilizer, and they just put on so much weight. I've got them planted probably about 2 to 2.5 feet apart here. I like them to grow together and kind of fill this spot up here. Great to just fill in some spaces that you've got. They're super cheap. These are also an annual, and so you'll have to replant them every single year, but for the price they are, I mean $2-3 for getting this out of it, it is absolutely amazing, and that's why it's number 1 on my list, because it needs no care. But remember, not all of them are the same. So this is Proven Winners Supertunia Vista, the Vista series. There's several colors. There's bubblegum, which is a lighter bubblegum pink. There is, I can't remember the name of it. There's a white one. There's several colors in these. So these are the fuchsia, and they're so pretty, and they are my absolute favorite. So I'm gonna put these here next year, and then they're also coming down to the house too, just to give this big bang of color. That's it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my top 10 favorites that I planted this year. They're such easy growers, and I hope it helps you pick some fun colors and easy care plants for your yard next year. And if you want to try your hand at gardening, those couple vegetables and fruits that I showed you are a great place to start. They're super easy and don't take a lot of care. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.